Welcome in, everybody. Can you see me yet? I can see you. Can you see me? There it is. You can see me. Yay! I'm so glad you can see me too. Welcome to Crystal Masters. What a challenging and interesting time to have a crystal healing class. I'm here. We have so much to talk about tonight. I was just looking at my notes and I was thinking, how are we going to get to all of this in 2 hours? We'll see how we do. This might spin off like a bonus class. We'll see. If it needs to be a bonus class, it's a bonus class. How are you? I'm really happy to see you. Welcome in. Is this anybody's first Crystal Masters class? That's kind of an exciting time. A lot of you are very seasoned professionals here in the space, what we call the seniors. Thanks, you guys. Woo! I haven't started my podcast yet. I'm hoping sometime this fall I will get it going. So is it Sarai? It's her first class. Dee Williams is new. Dina is new. Look at that. I'm so happy to welcome you. Dawn's been here forever. I love it. Michelle's salty. Caitlin is new. Fantastic. Well, welcome in. Sylvie lives here. Of course you do. You're always welcome to live here. Yeah, my podcast is called The Shift Show, and it's all ready to go except I'm busy. So welcome in if it's your first time live. Would love to just say that I'm happy you're here. Okay, so we have a lot of work to do tonight. Tonight is, how do I even explain what tonight is? Let's take a breath there. The energy of this particular month is about starting to prepare you for the shadow season, right? Which technically begins in September, goes through October, November, December in the Northern Hemisphere. And our guides this month in Soul Shift, which is sometimes relevant to Crystal Masters and sometimes not. This month I think it is. It's Persephone and Demeter. And Persephone and Demeter teach us what it's like to actually live in the light and the shadow at the same time. Now, for me, this is a practice, right? Like I live in light and shadow. I always see the duality. But a lot of people think they live in the light and then once a year they dip into the shadow and then they come back out of the shadow into the light. I have to live in both worlds. So we're going to explore some of that tonight. Is the lighting and everything clear for everybody? Judy says it's fuzzy for her, but it looks real clear on my end. So please let me know. If it's fuzzy for you and not for me, that means you have to check your internet connection. I'm hardwired in, so it should look good from your side. Okay, good. So if it's fuzzy for you, double check your situation just to make sure you have the best possible experience. It's real good on my end though. I've got like 100% on my end, so double check yours too. Okay, good. Thank you for the feedback. And thank you. I've been having a fun day today, so I'm really ready for class. Okay. I do have a couple of announcements of things to share with you. Sometimes it's funny because there's this ambivalence in me. I want to tell you about things at Sage Goddess that I think are important to your learning in Crystal Masters. But I don't want you to feel like I'm saying, oh, go buy this thing or go buy that thing. I want to reassure you, and this is important for you to know. Anything I have at Sage Goddess, I don't have enough for everybody in Crystal Masters to have one. There's nothing this whole year that I've had enough of at sagegoddess.com for everybody in Crystal Masters to get what I'm showing you. So when I show you something, it's not a sales thing. Like I'm not trying to go, ooh, go buy this thing. It's to show you that there's something here. And if it calls to you, great. And if it doesn't, leave it, please, for someone else to get it, because I can't get enough of the things that I'm sharing with you. Does that make sense? So if you ever feel like, oh, she's showing us things to go buy, I'm really not. I'm showing you things that I think are important, and then you have to use your discernment to know if it's right for you or not right for you. Does that make sense? Okay. So, well, I know, but you have to pace yourselves. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of things tonight. I don't have enough for everybody, so this is not to get you to go and get it, but I don't want you to later think, why did she show us that? That was a crystal thing, and we're crystal masters, and shouldn't we have had a chance to get that first, and that kind of thing. So anyway, my intention is never to get you to go and buy something. It really isn't. A lot of the time I'm thinking, if you don't want that, leave it for somebody else, because they may need it more than you do. Okay, good. One of those things is I did a bebop just for Crystal Masters, because you asked for it. So there was a Soul Shift bebop, and everybody in Crystal Masters was like, well, isn't there a Crystal Masters bebop? So there is today. I don't even have enough for everybody in Crystal Masters because they're handmade for us. I mean, these had to be handmade because there aren't just glass stones laying around that say Crystal Masters on them. So these are $1.20, and then your code is Shadow19 if you want one. A lot of you found it already, but if you want this for your healing tray, I'll try to make them again, but these take months to get made because they're made overseas. So anyway, Crystal Masters Bebop is there. That's the number one thing. Midnight tonight is the deadline. You may have not seen this if you're not online very much, which good for you. These are official Sage Goddess singing bowls. I designed everything from the note, the frequency, the colors. It's obviously got our name on the bottom. The mallet says Sage Goddess. You only have till midnight tonight, though, to decide if you want this. You have your choice of the bowl and the mallet, or the bowl, the mallet, and the bag, which was custom made just for this bowl and holds your mallet. Isn't that cool? This was a dream come true for me. These are quartz singing bowls, and I've never played a singing bowl that's easier to play. Ready? I'm going to show you. So I'm not striking it first. The way they cheat sometimes is they'll strike it first and then play it. That's the test of a singing bowl. If you have to strike it first before you play it, it's not a good singing bowl. It has to play from nothing. Are you ready? So anyway, if you want to use Quad Pay, you can break it up into 4 payments over 6 weeks at no interest to you if payment is a problem. And if you're not called to it, don't worry, leave it for somebody else. But tonight at midnight is your last chance to pre-order if you want the Sacral Bowl. The next in the series will be the Root Bowl. I've already chosen the ombre colors. It's going to be attuned. So this is note D for your sacral chakra. The next note is C for your root chakra. So if you want this, this is last chance. And again, it's optional. You don't have to have it. But I don't want you later to be like, I wish I had known. I know. So if you can't, that's okay. I totally get it. But it's my job to tell you, you only have till midnight. I'm so excited for you. Yeah, so purchases will be, everything will be delivered as soon as it gets here. So if you purchase today, it's a 6 to 8 week production timeline, and then your bowl will ship as soon as it's done. So you'll get it, we're around the middle of September, October, November, you'll get your bowl in November. And in November is when the root bowls will be here. Okay? So then the root bowls will be here, and then 8 weeks later, the solar plexus bowls will be here. So it's going to take us the whole year to get you all 7 chakras. But these, I personally chose the manufacturer. They're different than other bowl manufacturers. I've never played a bowl that's so easy to play. So if you haven't gotten a singing bowl before, this is a good opportunity. They were custom made for us, so I had to show you that. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, and then the last thing I have to tell you about, just because, again, I don't want you to miss out. So yeah, you can pre-order this today. You can get just the bowl and the mallet, or you can get the bowl, the mallet, and the bag. And Alexis is linking for you in the feed. So just follow the link. Alexis, will you post it one more time? And then just follow the link that Alexis posts for you. You don't have to do it right now. You have until midnight tonight. Are the sets not available for pre-order, Alexis? I thought they were. I thought you could get the bowl, the mallet, and the bag. Are you sure about that? Okay. Yeah, double check Alexis, because I thought they had the option to get the bowl, the mallet, and the bag on pre-order. We are not doing pre-orders for the whole set. That is not, unfortunately, something we can do, because we're having them made one by one. Okay, yeah, so you cannot pre-order the set, but you can pre-order the bowl, the mallet, and the bag. And then next month, you'll be able to get the root chakra bowl, and then the following month, you'll be able to get the solar plexus bowl, and then 2 months, it's 2 months each. Then 2 months later, the heart bowl, then 2 months later, the throat bowl, then 2 months later, the third eye bowl, and then 2 months later, the crown bowl. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, good. Now I understand. Yeah, I wish we could do that, but it's taking us a whole year to get them to you. It is very hard to have custom bowls made. I've been trying since 2015, and that is across 3 different countries. So why did I start with sacral? Because to me, the sacral chakra is the most important chakra in your system. It all starts there. If you don't have passion, what else do you have? Even if you have love, even if you have wisdom, even if you're grounded, if you don't have passion, what do you have? Passion is the life force. It's your juice. It's, for me, the sacral chakra, and maybe it's because I'm a double fire sign, but it all begins here for me. I wake up every morning and I can't wait for that day to start, to get my stuff going, to have an orgasm, to enjoy the beauty around me, to feel sensual, to enjoy textures, to get into all those things. That's what keeps me going personally. So I started with the one I felt was the most important. And it's not even about sex. It's about passion and creation. I mean, if you're not here to enjoy things and create things. Now, this is the only other thing I want to show you today. This is my pendulum. The replica, this is mine. This is the replica. The replica is 1 inch bigger than mine. There's only one person in the world who was able to replicate my pendulum, and we are retiring the amethyst pendulums after these sell out. So if you want my original sterling silver, amethyst, quartz, handmade pendulum, we are moving on to different designs. We're not going to come back to this one. No, this is not Momo. This is exactly mine, except longer. Isn't that cool? So this is yours, and this is mine. Oh yeah. So we're doing a bunch of different designs, but nothing like this. It's not going to be this with amethyst and the same stones all the way around. So if you want the exact copy of mine, it's last call. Once these sell out, we won't have these back. So these are $399, but they are absolutely made like jewelry. So first they make the cap, then they carve the quartz, then they make this piece, and they hand set the amethyst. Then they make the chain and attach the chain. Then they make the toggle and they attach the toggle. And that's how I hold mine. Aren't they beautiful? So it took us forever. If you want one, it's last call. I just want to make sure you knew that. We're not doing Angela Fo's pendulums. We're going to do some different stones and some different sterling designs and different things for you. But if you want mine, it's last call. There's like 70 of them left. So I wanted to mention it tonight in case any of you wanted one. These are made in India, hand carved. My original was made in India too, with 925 sterling. And what's really cool too, I'll show you. They are marked. I don't know if I can show you on this camera. They are actually marked SG with a heart. Do you see it right here? Look. They're marked SG with a heart and then 925. Isn't that beautiful? So, last 70 of those if you want one of those too. And you can use your quad pay for those as well. Okay. That's what I had to tell you about tonight. There's a 7 chakra skull set and all kinds of stuff, but I assume that you guys watch the daily videos and you can find all that information too. But those are the 2 big things that are really special to me. My replica pendulums and the singing bowls are like things that I have spent more than 6 months of my life working on, and it's last call. So that's why I'm coming to you and telling you about those things. There's lots of beautiful things, but is there a jump ring at the top of the toggle? Is that what you're asking? Let me double check. Does that help you to see that? Just want to make sure you see it. It's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. The story about these is they're not being made anymore by the original manufacturer. So in a way, I'm keeping this silhouette alive by bringing these to you. I'm so excited for you. So you're welcome. I'm glad I got to mention those. Okay. So tonight what we are doing... Oh, and I have to mention the new moon worksheets too. Did you get this too? So this is free on sagegoddess.com. Tomorrow's the new moon in Virgo. I'll be live on YouTube at 6 p.m. This is, my team and I make these as gifts every month. So if you go to sagegoddess.com and you download this, it tells you the gemstones, herbs, and oils for the new moon in Virgo. It tells you what time and what date. And then it gives you journal questions, and then it tells you a little bit more about the Virgo new moon. So you can print this out and put it in your Book of Shadows or however you want to do it. But we only have these for a limited time, so you'll be able to download this today, tomorrow, and Friday, I believe, if you didn't get yours already. So even if you're not shopping, make sure you get the new moon worksheet. Okay. Now, tonight we're working with this beautiful tool. And I am really excited to teach you all about this tonight. We are working with spheres. Now I'm going to show you something really quick. I saved a couple of pictures on the desktop of my computer to show you for tonight. We are working with what's called the Tube Torus tonight. And I want to show you 2 pictures of what the Tube Torus looks like. Isn't it fun? Oh, and we're doing bingo too? I know. Well, after tonight, you'll understand your obsession with spheres. Dawn, really? They all shipped. Alexis, what happened to Dawn? I confirmed the shipment on all of those. So it must have been USPS that didn't ship to you or didn't arrive to you. We'll figure that out, Dawn. I'm so sorry. If that's a USPS issue, that's a super bummer. We shipped them all. I double checked from Sage Goddess. And we shipped them early. So anyway, I apologize for that. If it's our error, we'll make it up to you, Dawn. And if it's USPS, I'm really sorry, because I've had some stuff lost by USPS recently too. Okay. Boo. Okay, yeah, if it's still processing, it's USPS. But hang tight. You know what I would say? Enjoy tonight's class. Enjoy tonight's class. And when you get your sphere, you'll be able to do everything that I'm teaching you tonight. So maybe you'll be able to focus more on the learning tonight. And when you get your sphere, you'll be able to practice. Does that make sense? Yeah, because sometimes there are things that are in our control and sometimes there's things that are out of our control. UPS is great, except it's twice as expensive, Deb, and our customers don't want us to double our shipping costs. So we stay with USPS because it's still the most affordable. If my customers were willing to pay more for shipping, then UPS would be great, but UPS is way more expensive than USPS. So yeah, we try to support the USPS, and our customers don't want to pay double the shipping costs that they'd have to pay for UPS, so that's why we don't use them. Yeah, we'll take care of you, don't worry. Okay, let me come back to what I was teaching you. This is the core of what we're doing tonight. This is a sphere, and inside of the sphere, now I will say I'm not going to be looking at the feed much more tonight, so if you have questions, I'm going to come back at the end and ask you if you have questions. And Alexis is here with me, so if you have technical problems, shipping problems, anything like that, Alexis is watching out for that. But if I don't respond to you, it's because my vision now is going to be focused on the camera and on our class content for tonight. So, but Alexis will be monitoring the feed, so if you have any questions or any challenges, she'll be there to support you while I focus on what I'm teaching you this evening. Okay, now this is a visual of why I designed this class. This is a clear quartz sphere with the tube torus inside. The tube torus, before I just start to describe it to you, is a donut-shaped round coil of energy, okay? And I want you to get a visual on it before I start teaching. This is why because I'm a visual learner. I don't know if you are too, but I have to see things to understand them. So I'm showing this to you first before I start teaching so that you can really understand the visual of what I'm talking about, okay? So it's a donut-like coil. You see that? And it's literally roped around itself. It's a donut coil of energy inside of a sphere. Let me give you another visual just in case that one didn't help. Here's another visual of the tube torus. Does that help? It is a donut-shaped coil of energy that sits within a sphere. Can you see that? Does that make sense? Okay. So again, do you see it? It goes around. It's inside the sphere. It's like having a donut inside. And you can see how the coils are all sort of nesting and moving around, right? And then in the center here, it's open. And this is what we call the toroidal field. So the energy is moving in a circle. Yeah? Okay. I can post these pictures for you later in our Facebook group if it's helpful, but I wanted to just show them to you to get us started. Does it help? Okay, good. Here's what I want to explain to you. And this tonight's complicated. Trying to feel like, where do I begin? So it's a lot tonight. The sphere is the most important crystal shape because, and I'll sage before I really get into because we're going to do energy work tonight. So if you don't have the sphere that I gave you, I really am going to ask you to find another sphere in your collection that wants to work with you tonight. Can you do that? So whether it's clear quartz or smoky quartz or labradorite or rose quartz or aventurine or bloodstone or whatever you have, if you don't have our sphere that I gave you tonight, can you please go get a different sphere because it's important. Okay, and if you have a bunch of spheres, then I'm going to ask you to work with your pendulum to choose one when we get there for your work tonight, because we only have 2 hours together tonight. But after tonight, I guarantee you, you're going to grab your pendulum and you're going to start going around every sphere in your whole collection because you're going to test it. I'm going to give you a test tonight for your spheres, okay? Candace has a garden of them, right? Elisa has multiple. If you don't have a sphere, Amanda, what I would say is work with what we're teaching tonight, what I'm teaching tonight, and then intuitively choose one for your collection at some point, because you can't replace the sphere. Some people have them in other forms. I will show you, we have about 5 or 6 really beautiful spheres at sagegoddess.com, or if you have another favorite gemstone store that you love to frequent, but you do need a sphere, a round gemstone to do the work that we're talking about tonight. So if you don't have any spheres yet, I will show you at the end of our time together tonight what we have at Sage Goddess. We put a few of these back into stock today and you guys grabbed them all, so we don't have any more of these. We do have the same man actually who made these for me also made these other bonded spheres, and we have these. This was part of a full moon kit for us a few months ago, but if you missed it, if you have that full moon kit, then you also have another bonded sphere made by him for the sacral chakra. This is root and earth star. This is sacral and heart, so you can start to sort of do some different levels of energy work tonight. If you've been with me for a while, the tools ultimately kind of like connect, right? So if you have that kit, you're going to see tonight how you can work with these 2 different spheres. I have someone who makes these for me. So the sphere you got this month is bronzite, smoky quartz, and sugilite. What he made previously for us is carnelian, and then peach aventurine, and rose quartz. He's a master at cutting and combining these stones. So selenite is really, really good. I love that. Black moonstone would be really great. A lot of you have at least one sphere that you've collected over the decades, in some cases, that you guys have been working with crystals. And I've been doing Sage Goddess for 9.5 years. So a lot of you have been collecting spheres since I started this work with you all those years ago. Did I not say shungite? It is. Yeah, I'm sorry. If I said something else, I meant shungite. This is bronzite, smoky quartz, and shungite. And then this one is carnelian, peach aventurine, and rose quartz. Sorry, did I not say shungite? No, it's not sugilite. I meant shungite. I've been working with sugilite nonstop for the last couple of days, so I apologize. That was my mistake. Sugilite is not the correct answer. It's shungite. So you have opalite. I love that. Zebradorite would be good. Black sardonyx is fantastic. If you have a pure shungite sphere, that would be great if you have that too. You have a throat chakra trio sphere. I love that. Labradorite would be great. Agate or arvezanite, whatever you have. So this is the one that you got this month. Again, it's bronzite, smoky quartz, and shungite, not sugilite. If you have prehnite, I think that's great too. There is such thing as an onyx sphere, and sardonyx too. Marlene has axonite, which is super great for pain relief. That's so good. Chastulite for Susan is perfect. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of the options for you. I will tell you something. The exercise we're going to do doesn't matter what you have. I chose the one that you have this month for a specific reason. And this is because, and don't think I'm weird, but I am going to have you sit on this tonight before we're done. Okay? Size doesn't matter, Terry. Whether it's that big or that big, spheres do the same thing. I'm trying to answer all your questions before we get started. Red quartz, yellow hematoid quartz. What if you lose it? That I can't help you with. Mookaite jasper is good. Did you sit on it, Tanya, when you first got it? I love it. So yeah, you're good. Tiger's eye is great. Am I weird? Great. I love it. Okay. So you guys feel good? You have everything you need for tonight's class? Yeah, geode is fine too. Okay. Now, let me ring my bell. Since we are in session for session 2, I am going to burn a little sage while I get us started for tonight. I want to invite you to take a nice deep breath. Just relax into this moment, this experience. We are doing energy work tonight, so I really do want you to try to let go of maybe some of your conscious thoughts and try to connect more deeply in with your subconscious tonight. You know? Try to relax, soften, allow. Oh yeah, and you can do, you can roll around on your spheres for a nice back massage. If you're doing Shavasana, you can work with your spheres to relax forward. If you're doing, really good work on your sciatic, you can roll back on your sphere and roll around a little bit. There's all kinds of body work. That's right, let go of everything that is about time and space, just for tonight, because we are doing energy work. It's so good. So I'm going to start by saying that tonight's session is fun for me because I have a PhD. I'm a scientist. I earned my PhD in 2003. Some of you don't know me very well, so it's good for you to know this. I earned my PhD in 2003 from the University of Southern California. And so I was trained in the scientific method. I taught the scientific method to doctoral students for 15 years before I started Sage Goddess. So I come from science. I come to you as a teacher, as a skeptic, honestly. I come to you as somebody who says, well, show me the proof. You know what I mean? Give me a replicatable study. Show me this, show me your hypothesis, and then show me how we can repeat this in a clinical setting. And that's part of the reason why I have lawyers who are my students, I have MDs who are my students, I have therapists who are my students, and I think a lot of the reason that those people come to me is they know that I'm not easily convinced. I'm not just an airy-fairy person. I need science, I need data. So I've been starting, is that better? Can you guys hear me better? I have been starting to follow over the last 2, 3, 4 years. There's a lot of research coming out of the field of neurology, and that talks about the connection between neurology, right, the brain, and psychology, how we think about things, and physiology, how we actually physically experience our reality. And a lot of this research, that started to come out again 3, 4, 5 years ago, even then it seemed a little bit out there, you know what I mean? And the people I follow are MDs, they're PhDs. A lot of this research is happening at the University of California, San Diego, which is right down the street from the University of San Diego, where I was a professor forever. And some of it, the Chopra Institute of San Diego is doing a great job. They're funding a lot of this research at UCSD. So if you want to follow up and learn more about this, there's certain resources I can direct you toward. But what I'm going to say to you is this. The field of psychoneural immunology, the connection between the mind, the spirit, the physical brain, and the way your body handles an onslaught from outside, any kind of immunological attack, right, from a virus or a bacteria or whatever it is. There is a connection, and it's been underplayed for decades by people in the medical field. And we understand why, right? Because everything I'm going to tell you tonight, I'm going to tell you this at the outset, and I believe that too. Epigenetics your genetic etiology, where you came from, what your grandparents and great-grandparents experienced is imprinted in your DNA. I'm not getting into epigenetics tonight, okay? So if you don't mind, I'm going to sit the epigenetic question outside of this, okay? But I practice Ayurveda in my own practice. I believe in the work of the Chopra Center and what's happening at UCSD and some of these other more progressive learning and research institutions. What I'm going to tell you is this. I know for sure that even though I can't prove anything I'm going to tell you tonight, I can't prove it. I cannot replicate anything I'm going to show you tonight. So if you are a scientist and you say, you know what, Athena, thank you so much. I can't believe you unless you give me a double-blind study with a test group that's receiving a placebo and a study group that's receiving the medicine. And if I can't replicate that in a clinical setting, it's not real. Then I completely understand, okay? On some level, in order to receive what I'm sharing with you tonight, you have to have a little bit of a leap of faith. But here's what's interesting and here's what's happening, okay? Because, and again, I'm somebody who has multiple physical diseases, and so I'm seen by multiple specialists, and I do a lot of Western medical treatments, okay? So I'm somebody who talks to heads of neurology at major research institutions. Like my personal physician is the head of neurology at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. It's the foremost research hospital in the United States. And I have these conversations with her all the time. So what I tell you tonight is, I can't prove this to you. She would say, you know what, Athena, I can't replicate this. But there's some validity to it. And some of these folks at the Chi Center and other people who are doing these hybrid studies between the world of neurology and medicine and the world of physics and metaphysics, where they are starting, okay, to find each other is this nexus point of, I may not be able to prove it to you, but I will tell you something, I am living proof. For me, I'm the proof. I shouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I had a very severe case of MS diagnosed 10 years ago, on top of Crohn's disease and Graves' disease. So, no matter what medicine I took, the report card, the projection was not good, right? So I had to figure out what we call complementary forms of treatment, which includes, for me, Reiki, yoga, crystal therapy, aromatherapy, sound therapy, plant medicine. These are all the things I do. It's integrative, right? So what I'm going to share with you tonight is, like I said, I can't prove it. I don't know. I can't give you data. And I'm a scientist, so I love data too. I sure love me a replicatable study. But I have beat every odd that every doctor ever gave me over the last 10 years. And I've beat it with pretty much the things that you see around you. Does that make sense? So take it for what it's worth. At the very least, what I would say is have fun tonight. I'm going to show you how to play with balls. I'm not going to juggle. I'm not a juggler. But we're going to play with balls tonight. We're going to play with this ball. We're going to play with this ball. We're going to play with... I'm going to do with your ball. I seriously can't find the soul-shaped sphere. Am I sitting on it already? Did it roll away? I'm actually not kidding, I can't find it. Oh, here it is, right behind me. We're gonna play with balls tonight. It was behind me. And see how it works for you. And you become your own data point, okay? And see how it works. And take it from there. Because what I will tell you is, there are people doing this work who are MDs, PhDs, researchers, and ultimately it's my goal to get involved with some of these organizations because I would like to be involved in replicatable studies. I do think in my lifetime I won't have to try and convince you or try and convince other people or anybody else that this is real. I think we're about 10 to 20 years away from being able to really map the human biofield. And the biofield is what we call the toroidal field. That's what I'm going to be teaching you about tonight, okay? Yeah, if that was in my bra, I hope you'd see it. I mean, I hope I haven't gained so much COVID weight that you wouldn't be able to see it in my bra. Would you be able to see it? This is weird. Like if that was sitting there, would you notice it? Maybe not. Maybe my clothes are too loose. I hope it's sooner. And now I'm like, what? Did I put it in there? That's good. I gotta keep you laughing a little bit. Okay. So let's begin. So what I want to tell you about, I'm going to just focus on your class tool for now. This is one of the only truly geometrically perfect shapes. A sphere. It's a circle. Okay? Creation began with a point. Have you seen those maps of creation? I'll try to post one for you if you haven't seen it. There's really interesting videos that show you the dot. The dot was the Big Bang, right? The dot was the universe saying life begins here. And the dot was a perfect sphere. The dot is what came out of the void. Whether you believe in Christianity or any other, I'll post it for you. It's fascinating. And then the dot became the seed of life. And then the seed of life became the flower of life, right? So we start to have these broader, more complex, and then the seed of life becomes, of course, Metatron's cube. So that dot, the beginning of life, is also the beginning of human life, right? The fertilized egg, right, implants into the uterus as a point, as a fertilized cell, but it is a unified field of consciousness. And then from there, the cell divides and divides and divides and divides. And as the cell divides to create life, it ultimately creates this seed of life or this flower of life. It becomes the human being. Or it begins as the start of a leaf that forms a tree, right? So everything begins at this single point of creation, this point of contact between the spiritual and the material. Does that make sense? That's right. And so through that mitosis process, it becomes this multi-cell organism, and what we ultimately see is the seed of life and the flower of life. That point is this. This is why I wanted to spend a whole 2 hours with you focused on the sphere. And some of you were like, what are we going to talk about? Like a whole 2 hours on a sphere? Why would we do that? When people come to me and they say, I want to buy one crystal, what do you think I should buy? If I'm only ever going to own one crystal, my answer is you should own a sphere. Because the sphere is the only crystal shape. I'll stand to put this on. It's the only crystal shape that radiates energy in all directions evenly. This is why they're so important. When you have a sphere in your room or in your home or in your backyard or at your office, it is radiating that frequency, whatever that frequency is, it is radiating it throughout your entire home, throughout your entire property, throughout your entire office, throughout your entire bedroom, whatever it is. And so it's really important to have at least one sphere in your collection and to choose that sphere with some specificity. Now, quartz spheres are really nice because you can program them to be whatever you want them to be. So if I had a quartz sphere in my hand, I don't have one here right now, but I could program that to be a sphere of healing or a sphere of protection or a sphere of grounding or a sphere of love or a sphere of whatever, right? And some of you, so does bonding affect the way the energy radiates in a compound crystal? Not in my experience. What the bonding allows me to do, and I'm going to teach you guys about this tonight, there is a light and a shadow of your sphere. This is why I gave this to you. There's always a method to my madness. Now we're going to talk about how far the sphere radiates tonight. I got some science to drop on you tonight. Hope you're ready. That's what I'm saying. Buckle up. We got a long way to go tonight. Okay. He's a master, the man who makes these spheres. This is his area of expertise. This will never come apart on you. They're perfectly cut. I mean, he's very scientific about this. He's very picky about this, which I love, because some people are not perfectionists and it drives me nuts. He's a perfectionist. It does not affect you. What you have to know, and again, some of what I'm teaching you tonight, you wouldn't learn outside of a physics classroom. In physics, they teach you about the highlight and the shadow of a sphere. Okay? So when you hold this sphere, whatever side is facing you is the highlight. Like right now, the bronze side is facing me. Whatever side is away from you is the shadow. It's what's operating in the background. Okay? So in the highlight for me, as I hold it right here, is bronzite, and the shadow is shungite. Whatever's in the highlight is what you're actively calling in, and whatever's in the shadow is what you are releasing. So even though your sphere radiates in all directions, it has sides, according to physics, okay? And rings too. Interesting, right? Now, if I turn this sphere, the highlight is all three of those stones. So I'm receiving not just the releasing energy of bronzite, but the clearing energy of smoky quartz and the purification energy of shungite. Does that make sense? If I turn it the other way, the shadow now is the bronzite and the highlight is the shungite. So you have to choose how you work with your sphere. Most of the time when I'm working with a bonded piece like these, I work with them, and this one I love so much. This is my personal one. It's got like a little nebula on it. I usually work with them with all three stones facing me as the highlight. But if you really want to focus on one or on the other, you're going to turn your sphere. Now, obviously, if you're working with a uniform sphere, like this is bloodstone for pain relief, this is going to be your highlight and your shadow. It doesn't matter. So you're working with one uniform form of stone, right? The reason I like the bonded is it gives me a choice, because each one of those stones has different metaphysical properties, which we're going to really explore in depth tonight. The bronzite versus the smoky quartz versus the shungite. They're all root and earth star stones, but they do different things. If you are in a state of overwhelm energetically, you're having anxiety, I would tell you to work with the stone as the highlight with your shungite and the shadow with your bronzite, because you need purification more than anything. If you are grieving the loss of someone or something, or change of state of being, right? The shadow is the side that's facing away, that's right. Then I would work with the bronzite as your highlight and the shungite as your shadow. Does that make sense? And if you need to release, clear, and purify, then you want to work with all three as the highlight. Okay, cool. I'm glad this is making sense for you. Because some people are like, well, why do you make bonded spheres? Like, why would you combine three different stones? And it's because your sphere has sides, even though we say it doesn't. It does have sides. There's a highlight side and a shadow side. And most people don't look at their stones that way. So like, again, this one, and a lot of you have this from that kit, if this is your highlight side, that's the love stone, right? That's rose quartz. So you're just calling in the energy of rose quartz. The shadow side is the carnelian. But if you're really feeling like you have zero energy and can't get out of bed, then you got to turn it highlight side to the carnelian and shadow side the rose quartz. So you have both. You have options to work with. That it does not matter where the light in the room is. Now in physics class, they'll tell you, well, the light will come in through this direction. You know what I mean? Like if you're working with a physicist, but energetically, it's about your light connecting with the light of the crystal. So it's about the side that's facing you, even if there isn't light coming through. So that's where this differs a little bit from physics in a proper sense, right? Does that make sense? I'm going to read through just to make sure. So I was going to ask you tonight. I don't have any more of these being made, but personally, selfishly, I want one for the solar plexus. I want one for the third eye. Like I was thinking about doing iolite with lapis and sodalite for the third eye. I was thinking about doing like a maybe an amethyst sugilite, lepidolite for the crown. Can you imagine? Like I just selfishly was thinking about this. So anyway, I haven't done it yet. Maybe for the holidays, something like that. I don't know what he can do, but he's pretty good at it. And he's been asking me, do you want another one? And I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, now you know highlight and shadow of your sphere, so you can really be conscious about what side is facing you. So when I'm going to show you my altar. I know the sound goes weird, but just like let me do this for a minute, please. I'll do my best to like not make weird sounds. When you put it on your altar, you have to think, highlight, 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 yeah. And then you become conscious about your choices. Oh, good. Our sound works today. Okay, good. I get to show you that. So Jen Conrad has a great question. She's like, why is smoky quartz in the middle so it can't be highlight or shadow? What I tried to do with the middle stones is choose something that supports both the front and the back without being the star of the show. And that's not an easy choice to make. Ultimately, it was a personal choice, okay? So I had to go, okay, well, carnelian and rose quartz was really what I was dealing with here. Creativity and love, passion and love. And then the orange aventurine was kind of like a middle, it supports both, but it's not the star of the show. Grief, purification. Smoky quartz, again, supports both, but it's not the star of the show. Because most people either need to really grieve and focus on that, or they need to really release and purify and focus on that. Does that make sense? I like that. Casey said the middle is the bridge. I like that a lot, actually. On my altar, which face is received? You or the Buddha? Well, so it's facing me, right? So this is my personal altar. So when I'm working with this altar, it's facing me. So that's why, I mean, this is why I had these spheres made. Because I wanted choices. Yeah. So I'm really glad all this is coming up because it's important for our conversations. So yeah, your bronzite is super pretty. I'm glad you're loving it. And the shungite it's a cool combination. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, dark side of the moon. Ginger ale break. If I have more bonded spheres made, this is the only person I would trust to do it. So they'll all be this beautiful. Again, I haven't started anything, so it would probably be holiday time because it takes him a really long time to make these. I love him. It takes him forever. But at least the quality is really good. So, you know. It's good to know. Yeah, so I'll check for you, Andrea. I don't know what his capacity is, but I'm glad you're enjoying them. Okay. Now, depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Deepak Chopra, if you talk to Eckhart Tolle, if you talk to Pema Chodron, if you talk to some of these people about the human biofield, they will tell you it's 8 feet. Let me explain this to you, okay? So when I tell you that a sphere radiates its energy in all directions evenly, what they would say is it's 8 feet out. The experiment I want to show you tonight, and I'm just going to give you a taste of this, okay? Sorry, I have to move around a lot tonight, but it is what it is. When you put a sphere on the floor, here's your sphere. We're moving back even more. That's okay. And you put a generator on the floor. And you put a cube on the floor. This is where it gets interesting. And you get your pendulum. Doesn't matter the size. You ready to have some fun? Okay. When you put your sphere on the floor, take the other stones away. And you put your pendulum over it. You'll be able to see this in real time, right? I'm moving everything out of the way. Almost no matter how far away from your sphere you go, it will continue to read that frequency. Right? And just breathe and just enjoy, just play a little bit, right? This is why I'm telling you, pendulums are the most important tool in your collection because they'll help you read the human biofield. Because the power of that shape to radiate energy is profound. Now, this is a quartz generator. It's cute, right? It's going to read that energy field. Let it connect with it first. And then as you get further away, do you see what happens? It doesn't read the energy anymore. Let me go back. It starts to resist. Still reading it there. Not reading it here. And bring it back to center one more time. Now this is going to read the energy higher. But again, we bring it out to the right, still reading it, not reading it. Reading it, reading it. Reading it. Reading it. Not reading it. cube. Is this interesting to you? I don't know. I mean, part of me was like, are they going to be so bored tonight? But I think it's just like the coolest thing ever, and I love doing this. So here's a cube, reading the energy. Reading it. Reading it. And it gets to here and it's not reading it. Reading it. Go back and calibrate. Reading it. Nope. Nope. Okay, so then we bring the sphere back. Now that you've gotten a taste of this, right? Do it yourself. Bring it back, calibrate. None of the other shapes did it. I'm not moving. Now, these skulls are where it gets really, really cool. Are you doing it? It's fun, right? Isn't this fun? That's what I'm saying. Like, I can teach you all this stuff. It's all theory, right? Until you sit down with your own darn pendulum and you start reading the biofield, right? Skulls always do this. They start to turn when they hit the edge of the torus. So the toroidal field of the skull, in my experience, is 2 feet. Okay? So did you see that? Want me to do it one more time? Can you guys see it pretty well? So the toroidal field of a sphere is 8 feet. It is the biggest toroidal field of any crystal structure, any form. The toroidal field of a generator is about 1.5 feet by my calculations. The toroidal field of a cube is about 2 feet. The toroidal field of a skull is about the same. It's about 6 inches out, 12 inches out, right? Maybe a little bit more than that. And then it starts to spin at the 2.5 foot. And says no. Okay, so we got 1.5 inches for Hana's tower. What other measurements are you guys getting? Are they roughly the same measurements? It's interesting, isn't it? So here's the thing. So let's do that. You want to do sphere height? I'm super down. Like this is the fun part of this class is trying to understand. So those were feet, not inches, Hana. The fun part of this class is the experimentational nature of it, and it's enough proof, right? Because again, I'm a scientist, so I keep doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. So let's go up. Let me first make sure I've gotten really good contact with my sphere. Let me move back. I'm gonna have rug burns by the time this class is over. Okay, so good contact there with my sphere. I can only reach so far. Just watch. I mean, your pendulum will tell you. I mean, there's almost nowhere I can go where it's not active. Let me try standing up. I know, Cynthia, it's really true. This is not the most fun way to get a rug burn. I gotta have Dave come in here later and drag me across the carpet a little bit. Yeah, if you don't have a pendulum, use a pendant. You guys got a pendulum in June as your soul shift tool, so I assume that most of you have one, but if you don't, use a necklace. My magician pendant's a great pendulum. So let's do the standing test. Ready? So what are we now, like 3-4 feet? You guys can't see it, but it's still going. I mean, there's nowhere that I can move around that sphere that it doesn't say yes. So what I'm going to tell you is, as a scientist, that's the most proof I can give you tonight of a toroidal field. I can't give you any more physical evidence proof that it exists other than using your pendulum and seeing. Isn't that cool? And that's why it's like, I not only can I not prove this to you, I don't want to prove it to you. I want you to prove it to yourself. I want you to start working with your pen. I mean, there's a reason for how I've taught you Crystal Masters this year. By the way, Crystal Masters is going to continue throughout 2021. I'm working on our curriculum right now. So if you like Crystal Masters, we're not changing the price next year. You can just stay where you are. We're just going to keep on trucking, so we hope you're enjoying the process this year. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you is that's kind of, for me, the magic of all of this is you don't have to trust me. You don't have to believe it. Do it yourself. I mean, this is replicatable because this is how energy functions. And part of what I love is teaching you how to do this for yourself. So it isn't just like, well, my teacher told me so, and I guess I believe her, right? No, you should try it yourself. Yeah, you'll get new certificates next year. 2.0, baby. That's right. No, if you want to stay where you are, you just continue. It'll just start over again in January. Was it going nuts at 5 feet? I love it. Yeah, we're doing Crystal Masters again next year because I have 12 more months of stuff to teach you. Turns out. Anyway, I'm glad you've been enjoying it. And we're not raising our class prices next year because we know that people are struggling. So I'm really proud because this is, I think, the 3rd year in a row when we are not raising class prices. Which is honestly, that tells you something because like my staff gets raises, right? Like everybody gets raises. We're not bringing those charges to you. The only thing we may do next year, just as a heads up, is we may increase the price of the monthly Crystal Masters tools because by $10 maybe, because it's getting harder and harder to get you something super magical for $20 because of pandemic and everything that's happening. So the tools may go up by $10 or $20 a month, but the class is going to stay the same. Yeah, no, we're really trying not to raise prices. Everybody else is raising prices. We are trying not to. We're actually trying to lower prices of stuff, but classes will stay the same. Yeah. And if you're not getting tools, then it won't affect you. But even if we raise tool prices, it's not going to be by much. My commitment is to try and keep this affordable because if you like Crystal Masters and you like learning, I don't want you to feel like you can't afford it. I'm glad. Oh, I know. Well, shipping is insane, Joanne. Shipping cost is insane. It's crazy how much it costs to ship things. I know. So I'm glad you guys are excited. Okay, so are you seeing it? Are you seeing this in your own home, in your own room? Are you seeing this with your own tools? Can you confirm for me that you are seeing this? What happens with a pyramid? You want to try it? Let me go get a pyramid. I'll be right back. Your wish is my command. I love being at home. I've got all the things here. Are you seeing it? It's cool, right? Okay. Pyramid. Quartz. Okay. It's fun. I mean, honestly, for me, this is a hobby. So let's see how far out it goes before it changes. And by the way, do you know what we're doing next month, darling, in Crystal Masters? It's starting to shift here, 12 inches. We've got a foot. Let me go on the other side. Do you guys know what we're doing next month in Crystal Masters? Because we'll do this again next month if you're down for it. Yeah, it's starting to shift right here. Same side. Yep, 12 inches. Now let me go up from the pyramid. Let me recalibrate. My guess is it's probably 12 inches above too, before it, yep. You see it turn there? 12 inches. It's about 12 inches, right? Yeah, it's about 12 inches. With a Merkaba, it probably would be pretty nuts. So here's what I'm going to tell you. So next month, if you got your tools, this is what you got. They're shipping, they actually are already at Sage Goddess, so your tools are going to be on time next month, which I'm super excited about. You are getting a beautiful 7-piece Picasso Jasper set of sacred geometry. And next month, we will run the pendulum over every single shape to look at the toroidal field. So these are your tools. I had these custom made. I don't know how we did it for $20. Again, it's been on a wing and a prayer. So if you ordered your tools, they're coming. Yeah, super excited, right? And if not, you can test with, again, whatever you have, right? Was it heavy magnetic? I love that, Lydia. 12 inches for Joy, too. And so now we're looking at the what, right? Like, how far away is it moving or not moving? We're not looking at why. And this gets to the science of crystal healing. And this is what helps me, because I have a lot of friends who are very well educated and very, they're scientists and they're doctors and they're researchers in all different fields. And they'll say to me, okay, well, show me, that your crystals work. The crystals have their own electromagnetic field, what we call the EMF. You have an EMF, the crystals have their own EMF. Size does not matter. Shape matters. And Hillary, you got it exactly correct. It's toroidal, T-O-R-I-D-A-L. The shape of sacred geometry, now let me back up. So we've done the measurements and stuff. Now I'm going to go back to being professor for a minute and go back to some of the science of this, okay? Misty said, so we shouldn't read a pendulum with crystals close by. I'm in a room full of crystals. I don't, though, have crystals within a foot of me when I'm doing readings for people. And so there's no interference. I wouldn't do a reading for somebody with, like, a big quartz pyramid sitting in my lap. Do you know what I mean? That's a great question. Emreet asked, if we bevel an edge of a cube, does the integrity of the shape stay intact? It does. Beveling doesn't matter. That's cool, isn't it? Selenite generator was 3 inches, which doesn't surprise me because selenite doesn't conduct energy the same way that quartz does. So a quartz-based stone is probably going to have a larger toroidal field. I don't know about copper. Here's the thing. I want you to experiment and tell us. Maybe you find that copper has this massive toroidal field. I haven't done the experiment. The scientist in me wants to do it, right? Is this why a crystal ball is so impressive? Partly. So here's why crystal spheres are important. Let me go grab mine for you to show you. I'm sorry to keep getting up, but it is kind of nice to share with you some of these things. So when I was, how old is this sphere now? This was my first crystal sphere, my first real investment piece as a crystal. And it came from my friend David Vince, who owns South American Imports in San Diego. If you're local to San Diego, please go to South American Imports and support David, because his shop is amazing. This was my first real crystal sphere. And it's still my favorite. It's full of rainbows. The quality is really beautiful. It's Brazilian. The reason why crystal spheres are so important is A, the field that they create, the toroidal field, and B, the scrying. So scrying, and if you want to learn about scrying, maybe I could do like a bonus class for you around Halloween. If you're interested. Some of you may not care about scrying or divination with quartz spheres, or obsidian spheres are really good to scry with too. Smoky quartz spheres are good to scry with. So if you want to learn more about this, let me know. Some of you just got really gorgeous smoky quartz spheres from the gem sale last night. It'd be super fun to scry with those. Would you like that? Okay. And that way, if it's a bonus class, so Alexis, let's set this up. If it's a bonus class and you don't care about this, you don't have to attend or participate. But I do think it's kind of fun to teach you about how to scry. And so scrying requires a sphere that has some kind of clarity or translucency to it. So again, obsidian is good, smoky quartz, clear quartz, rose quartz, citrine would be really good if you had it. Yeah, did you get one of those? So if you got one of those, that'd be a really good scrying tool for you because the clarity is just so good. So we'll do a bonus class and I'll teach you how to scry. Yeah, we did mirrors, but we haven't done spheres. It'd be fun to teach you how to scry at Halloween. I think that would be really, really fun. So we'll set that up for you as a bonus class in October. Yeah, don't be scared though. Here's the thing, nothing should scare you as long as your intention is accurate. When people do things at parties and it's not ceremonial and it's not intentional and it's not thoughtful and they don't open a circle and they don't call in the directions and they don't do all of that, then that's weird. You know what I mean? But if you do something with intention in a circle as part of a ceremony, you're really focused and you're calling in certain energies and setting other energies aside, there's really nothing to be worried about. It's all about the process, and that's why I take so much time opening a circle and doing all of those things for you. So, okay. We are going to talk about the Morrigan next month in Soul Shift when we talk about Lilith. So if you want to talk about dark goddesses, Soul Shift in October is probably the place you want to be. They are the focuses of our, I'm going to be working with Morrigan, Hecate, and Lilith in Soul Shift in October. Yeah. So anyway, that's all happening on the other side. Okay. So as I was going to say earlier, actually, so I'm glad you guys are a little bit ahead of me. There are 3 things to do with crystal spheres. Most people teach 2. You ready for the 3rd? Here's the 2. Any YouTube video you watch, oh, crystal spheres. 1, you can hold it in meditation. 2, you can gaze in it and scry into it and see if you see spirits. Every video ever made about spheres talks about those 2 things. What they don't talk about is how to shift your entire energy field with it. So for the next half hour, what I want to focus on, you want to see it up close? I don't want to show it off, I don't want you to think I'm showing off, but this actually really is an important sphere for me. I've taken it into journeys and meditations. It's traveled around different parts of the world with me. So thank you for appreciating her, because she's magic and she's been with me for a long time. I got to take her, since you guys are crystal masters, you might appreciate this. So when I lived in San Francisco, I got invited to a place in Marin, actually not quite, it's just past Marin before Petaluma. There's a retreat center, and on that property, it's so powerful out there. I miss Northern California so bad. Isn't she beautiful? So I got invited to go to this property and have a photo shoot there. And some of you have probably seen the pictures of that. And so on that property is where the chiefs of the 4 tribes, the California tribes, each one of the chiefs, so the California chief, the Oregon chief, the Washington chief, and the Nevada chief, so the 4 tribes up and down the coast and across, used to gather on this land, and they would have, it was annual, and they would have these ceremonies. So I got invited out there to do this photo shoot, and the person who invited me said, I think you have a big quartz sphere, why don't you bring it? I gotta find this picture so I can show you. So I drove out there early in the morning, right, and I've got clothing and costumes and all this stuff, and I've got my sphere. The sphere was in the front seat of the car with me. This was 10 years ago. And so I get there, and my friend who's there said, bring the sphere over here. So if you go out to, in the center of the property, it looks like just fields and hills, like it's just acres and acres and acres and acres and acres. But out in the middle of nowhere, there's a quartz cluster. The quartz cluster is like 4 feet tall by 4 feet wide, okay? And it's just growing out of the earth. It's connected to the earth. They excavated this land around it, and then it's just all hills and fields. But if you walk over this one little hill and down into this valley, you can see the quartz cluster, okay? And people have left all kinds of offerings in there. There's herbs in there, there's letters in there, people have left little crystals in there. I mean, it's a big quartz cluster. And so I got to place this sphere on that cluster and charge it at noon, which is, if you know about noon time, noon is when the sun is center sky, so it's the best time to solar charge your crystals. I got to place this sphere at noon on that cluster. It was so incredible. So we have pictures of that. I'll find the pictures for you and post them for you. It feels like a different lifetime. And I'll try to find out the name of the place too. On the one side of the property is where that cluster was, and on the other side of the property there's a labyrinth. So my friend took me out to the labyrinth part, and I told her that I wanted to be nude. So I wore this big velvet cape with a hood and everything, but underneath it I didn't have any clothes on. Because I wanted to go out into the labyrinth and I wanted to lay on the earth without any hindrances, and I was very comfortable with my friend. So I'm in my robe and everything, and we go out to the, do you know which pic it is? So we go out to the labyrinth, and she's like, come on, let's go out into the labyrinth. And I was like, so as soon as I walked out toward the labyrinth, everything in me said, stop. You need permission to go here. And she was like, come on, the light's really good. It's probably a place you can go. I don't know. She had an inn with somebody there, but I mean, they do retreats there, so I think it's kind of a public place. So I'm looking at her and I'm like, I have to stop here. Like, I have to smudge. I have to ask permission. So I sat at the labyrinth was like, it's huge, right? So I stopped. I'm in my robe. I'm smudging, and I stop at the outside of the labyrinth, and I ask for permission. And I'm like, I can't enter until I have permission. She's like, well, how long is this going to take? The light is changing. It's like, I don't know how long it's going to take. So then finally I felt a yes. And then I moved closer to the labyrinth, and everything was like, no, stop. So I stopped again, and she was just like, because she'd brought other people out there, and I guess they hadn't done this, right? So anyway, so then I'm like, I gotta stop again. I need permission. I can't go in there until they say yes. So anyway, there's a picture of me somewhere naked. And I laid down in the fetal position on the ground. My hair was kind of spread out. And somebody had made an altar, and it said breathe. I've got to find this picture. They spelled out breathe in stones. The picture with the deer was the same day, Shelly Santos, on a different part of the property underneath where the quartz sphere was. And so I laid down on the ground with my back, and she said, no way, Athena, because I didn't see it. The word breathe went along my spine, like where that person had spelled that out. I didn't look where I was laying down. I just kind of went and laid down, and it was like breathe along the back of my spine. Anna Booty doesn't sound familiar to me, Jen, but let me double check on it and see if I can find the name of this place. It'd be a good place for you to go if you're in Northern California. I would go back there in a heartbeat if I could, because it was so incredibly magical. So anyway, that was a photo shoot, and that was that day. But this sphere got to sit on that mother cluster, and I've always felt like at noon. And I've always felt like it got a little charge there that it wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Isn't that cool? So yeah, if you're in Southern California, this is again north of Marin. I had to cross the bridge, and it's south of Petaluma. It's like between Marin and Petaluma. It was like a 45-minute drive for me from San Francisco, if that gives you kind of a radar. Yeah. So I got 2 layers of permission from the labyrinth to be there. But both times it was, you do not pass without permission. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going in until I know. Wouldn't it be fun to have a retreat there? A lot of you are in the Northern California, Oregon, Washington, kind of PNW situation. It might be the Earthrise Retreat Center. It might be. So anyway, now you know the history of my sphere and why it's so special. You'll go with me to get a tattoo? I would love that. I will find the picture of, because I actually have the picture of where it says breathe in the stones. And wouldn't that be a cool tattoo to have that like on one of our wrists or something? I do think it was. It was very masculine energy that was telling me stop. I mean, it was like stop and ask. You don't just come here. And then I had to state my intention, which was to connect with the land. And then it was like, okay. It wasn't just about taking pictures. It was almost like taking pictures was too superficial. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, no, but why are you here? It was really, really interesting. So I will, anyway, I'll find more about that. I didn't mean to take you on that rabbit hole, but that was kind of fun. So here's what I want you to know about a sphere. The third reason we work with spheres, not just because you can hold them in meditation, and not just because they're good for scrying, but the reason that I work with a sphere is it is the only geometric shape that can hold the torus. Do you remember that donut that I was describing to you? So if you talk to physicists, they will teach you about what's called the tube torus, and it's spelled T-O-R-U-S. It's not like the Ford Taurus. I always joke about this because my husband had a Ford Taurus when I met him. And I was like, it wasn't him, you know what I mean? It was a cute car, it was blue, he liked it. But it was just like, you don't really strike me as like a Taurus guy, you know what I mean? So it's not a Ford Taurus, it's a tube torus, T-O-R-U-S, as opposed to the sine torus, which is T-A-U-R-U-S. Does that make sense? Michael, it has to be a perfect round sphere because the torus is round. It's the donut. And in order for it to hold this energy, it has to, what it basically is, I wish I had one to show you. I almost want to have someone make me one. This is the picture I drew to show you, and it's like the shittiest picture I'll ever draw you, so, you know, don't judge me. That's not nice. I don't have natural gifts. But this is a torus right here. I don't even know what I was trying to do there for you. I'm telling you, this is not my gift, but this is a torus. So it's like a round coil of energy, and it's a circle. So a one-dimensional tube torus is a circle, okay? It's a slinky. Thank you, Ronnie. Ronnie cracked the code. It's a slinky, and Jess found the emoji for it. It's a slinky donut. Now, size does not matter. Every sphere holds toroidal energy, okay? This is why I love teaching you guys, because I'll tell you something and I can't figure it out, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we totally figured it out. I'm like, of course you did. It is a round slinky. It is an interconnected slinky. Now, so one-dimensional, if I was to show you a 1D, this is a 3D torus, okay? A 3D torus is rotating that energy in all directions, okay? Because the toroidal flow, energy comes up from the bottom and winds back in. It comes up from the bottom and winds back in, and up from the bottom and winds back in. Do you have a, I have a, what's my blender called? It's the big one. When I make smoothies in my Vitamix, it creates a toroidal flow. I know that sounds really dumb, but I've taught my kids. I'm like, it's gonna make the torus. And it does. Like all the fruit from the bottom comes up and it goes back down in the center. And the fruit comes up from the bottom and it goes back down. A Vitamix. Vitamix creates a torus. Okay? Does that make sense? I'm just trying to give you like other visuals for this. So yes, this is why we grid in circles. This is why we do ceremony in circles, because the energy is coming up from the bottom and down and into the center. So one of the ways this year, I've been trying to teach you both physics and metaphysics, so that when people come to you who are skeptics and go, I don't believe in crystals, and you say, really? Because they actually have their own toroidal fields. Physicist is going to be like, you had me at toroidal. They can't debate it. The tube torus is a physical reality. We can map it. We can sense the magnetic field of it. It's in your body. Your entire body is a toroidal field. It's down, it's your root chakra, and then up to the crown, and then back down through your central channel and down to the root chakra, and then back up to your crown and down through the central channel and back to your root and back up. This is how Kundalini energy rises, is through that toroidal field. So when people talk about the science of crystal healing, it's actually not that hard to talk about, but you have to have an understanding. I could talk about a tube torus with you and you'd be like, oh, blah, 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 tube torus. But I have to understand what a torus actually represents. When physicists talk about black holes in the universe, okay, the black hole is a toroidal field. Energy comes through, it looks like a hole, right? It's going down, but it actually gets absorbed back in and then back down, and then absorbed back in and back down, right? So a sphere is the only shape of crystal that contains the entire toroidal field. Does that make sense? That's exactly right. So Andrew said the magnetic field of the Earth is a toroidal field too. Every magnetic field is toroidal. You know? And then the lines, so the lines of energy that come up and go back down are your meridians. Those are your chi lines and your ki lines. That's how it's happening. So not only do you understand the flow now, you understand that every one of those lines, it's all interconnected. It's like mesh. Every one of those lines is connected to your spleen and your liver and your kidneys and your spine and your heart and your brain, and it's all interconnected, and it's just constantly moving. So disease and illness is an interruption in your toroidal flow. That's all it is. And acupuncture, acupressure is all an attempt, right, by inserting needles or by moving energy through, body work is an attempt to move energy around blockages so that you can get back to that toroidal flow. Because when you're in that toroidal flow, you don't have pain, you don't have illness, you don't have disease, you don't have a virus, you don't have any of that. Energy is just flowing. But as soon as something gets off, then you got to figure out, okay, where's the blockage? And so we come in with acupuncture or acupressure or crystal healing or Reiki or aromatherapy or whatever, your sound medicine, going with a different frequency to try and again move the energy past that blockage so that your toroidal flow starts again. It's all coming together now, right? Now, here's where I want to play with you tonight. What I'm about to tell you about and show you is optional. This is the optional part of tonight's programming. Because you know me, I'm always going to take you to an edge and like kind of push you over, but you have to decide what you want. Your torus sometimes shrinks. It can expand. The flow is always there. Okay, the flow is always going. This is your cosmic donut, baby. Your flow is always going through your cosmic donut, okay? But it can get very small. Yeah. When you're depressed, when you're anxious, when you're in an abusive relationship, when you get hurt, and you don't want to get hurt again, your torus gets really small. And so it anchors into a smaller energy field. It's almost like going from this to this. Again, this has the same size torus as this, but I'm just showing you. It gets very small. It shrinks when you're sick. It shrinks when you're sad. And the flow can actually start to get slower, right? Mine had gotten very slow and very small for a while during this pandemic. Is it making sense to you now? And sometimes when we want to feel safe, instead of allowing our torus to connect with all that is below us and all that is above us, because that's what the torus is supposed to be. Let me move back. The torus is supposed to be anchoring you in to everything that's beneath your feet and everything that's above you. So that massive flow is down into the center of the earth and through all the bones in the planetary matrix and up across every continent on this planet and as far up to the angelic realms as we can go, and then back down through that Taurus and out through every. It's supposed to be expansive, right? But when we get small, we get small. So one of the exercises that I've been trained to do, and that I want to invite you to think about doing tonight, there's two different ways to do this. One is you can invert your Taurus. It's fun to play with it, okay? Let me see, I see someone telling me to see a question. Let me go back up in the feed. Alexis, too, if you see a question you need me to respond to, please let me know. What happens when you're angry? Same thing, the Taurus gets small. Small. Right? When we feel powerful, when we feel possible, we expand. So there's two different ways you can do this exercise. You can always put it back. It's flipping your pole. Okay? So you can either choose to expand your Taurus, meaning you're going to really consciously tonight take your Taurus from being this very small kind of space to really including everything on Earth and everything above you and open it up. Or you can simply just turn it, invert it. What that does is it resets the Taurus. Now, what does this feel like? It feels like a real shift in your energy. It feels like a real shift in your energy. It feels like, have you ever plugged something into the wall, into an outlet that didn't work? It just happened to me last week. I have a shitty outlet in the house because my house is old. And my house has been through different remodels, but it still has some old shitty outlets. Have you ever tried to plug something into an outlet and you're just like, guess that light's not going to work, right? It's like taking something out of an outlet that isn't working and then plugging it into an outlet that does work, and you're like, ah! It's like, oh. So that's basically what it is. It's some of you have been plugged into an outlet that hasn't worked for a long time. So your Taurus is always operating, but it's like sort of operating down here in this little tiny. Well, I do both. I expand and I rotate, and I expand and I rotate, and I'm constantly doing these things. When I feel sad, I rotate and expand. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's always something to think about. This can't hurt you. This isn't going to be painful. What it will do, though, is open you up to some new and more expanded energies that you may not have been tapped into before, which could be, and I'm going to open a circle before we do it. It could be energetically overwhelming a little bit. I mean, you could all of a sudden start to go like, oh my God, there's information coming from all over the place. So what you might want to do is ask your pendulum, should I rotate? Should I flip? Put your thing down, flip it, and reverse it. I mean, if you just feel like, yes, I want to do this, this feels right to me, I'm ready for this, then do it. And if you want to wait and just kind of play with it and see how it feels to you, everything that you do energetically can always be reversed. That's the beautiful thing about energy work. Well, I'm going to teach you how to do it. Candace cannot do this right now because Candace is already flying. It's just a visualization, but like all energy work, it's very real. It's very real. Sometimes our Taurus, because we want to stay small and safe and we want things to be, and especially during a pandemic, what a lot of people do, just so you know, is they decide, I'm going to keep my world as small as I can possibly keep it because I'm stressed. So I'm going to plug into the smallest source of energy I can because big sources of energy are overwhelming to me right now. When people tell me that, I'm always like, okay, But when are you going to decide to expand? Because manifestation requires you to expand, healing requires you to expand, trust and surrender require you to expand. So it's kind of like when you decide you're going to get as small as you can possibly be, at some point you have to go, well, maybe I need to get a little bit bigger. Yeah, I mean, there is a polarity, right? So we're going to flip the polarity. So what I'm going to say is try it if you feel called to it, and kind of don't if you don't. It can't hurt you, but you're going to feel different. You're going to feel different. Nietzsche's like, let's get bigger. I didn't come here to be small. I didn't come to Earth to be small. I didn't come to Earth to waste my time. I didn't come to Earth to waste your time. I didn't come to Earth to play a bunch of games. I came to Earth to do as much as I can before I have to go home. So Hannah says no. Some of you are saying yes. Some of you are like, I'm not sure. So I think that's great. For some people, it shifts their metabolism. For some people, it shifts their physical health. For some people, it shifts their sexual desire. And you can kind of set an intention for like, where do you want to feel this shift? Do you want to feel it in your energy level? Do you want to feel it in your metabolism? Do you want to feel it in your sex drive? Do you want to feel it in your heart space? Do you want to feel it in your third eye? Like your, right? Yeah, I don't think there's any coincidence, and this is really important. So there's no code word to flip it back. You just reverse the process. That's right. It is the Yggdrasil. It is the world tree. It's the tree of life and wisdom, right? In your hoo-ha. I like it. We call it cooters around here. In your cooter. Okay, so what I would say is, maybe if you're on the fence, don't jump into anything that you're not comfortable with, and maybe just see how you feel. The rest of us will work on it, and then you'll know how to do it. And if you decide to do it, I mean, this is recorded for you forever, so it's not like you got to do it tonight or your chances are gone, right? Okay, so first of all, let's experiment with plugging into a broader toroidal field. You have your own field, okay? And like I said, most physicists will tell you your toroidal field is about 8 feet, which is why everybody's influenced by you. And everybody around you, especially in your immediate world and sphere, I'm going to open a circle in just a second. Everybody around you is influenced by your personal field, which is, like I said, about 8 feet around you. So if you're hugging someone, they're going to feel your energy. Hang on, I'm not there yet. And I would stay seated. I wouldn't lay down, but it's up to you, okay? So your aura is 12 inches, but your field is 8 feet. And this is why we are all constantly interacting with each other, even if we're not in the same space. One of the things I found fascinating about this whole idea of socially distancing is 6 feet apart still has me in your toroidal field. So it's like, maybe I can't catch a virus from you, but I can still catch your attitude. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about that. Yeah, you can be seated on a sofa. You can be seated anywhere you want. So what we're going to do with this first exercise, once I open the circle, so anger is not necessarily an expansion. Anger is, do you know what I think anger is? And again, this is just my 2 cents. When I have gotten too small, when I've made my toroid like this, because people, because life, because fear, because I got hurt, because I got this, because like when I start going like this, that's when I experience anger. When I expand up and out, and when I connect into the planetary toroid, my anger dissipates. Because when my field is too small, all I feel are my emotions. And it's ego, it's because I'm the only one in there. When I plug into the broader energetic field, I may be angry, but it's dispersed because my field isn't so tightly coiled. So people who stop interacting with others and they get too tight in their toroidal field, and this is why I'm telling you spheres are so magical. When people buy a sphere and they don't know why they're buying one, I'm always like, I think I know why you're buying one. Because you're sad or you're angry and you've gotten too tight and you know it. Something consciously in you is like, I need a crystal sphere. You don't know why. And your spirit guides are like, good on ya, because your field has gotten too tight, and that's why you're depressed, angry, frustrated, all of those things. When you plug into the rest of what's happening in this matrix, that's where optimism, softness, gentleness, compassion, that's where those emotions live. So a lot of times people will say, well, if I open up, I'm going to get hurt. And it's like, no, if you stay closed, you're going to get hurt. Because if you stay closed, you're only going to hear your voice and your emotions and your feelings and what you want and all of this. And that is its own form of death. Because your own voice is not the only voice you should hear. There's hope in that big universe, even though we get scared by it, right? Isn't that interesting? Breezy said, I've bought a sphere every time someone has died. Something in you knows it's time to expand the field. And what I'm going to tell you is this. Even though I've got plenty of beautiful spheres at Sage Goddess, if you have a sphere already, start with what you have. Go get those babies that you purchased when you knew, something in you knew that you needed to work with spheres, and start working with them again. Get them off the shelf, get them out of the drawers, get them off the windowsill, and get them into your hands, because those are, after tonight, I want you to look at them in a completely different way. Each one of those spheres that you collected over all those years, whether it's this big or this big, was an invitation to you to this moment. It's pretty powerful stuff, right? So you already have what you need, most of you. Okay, so 2 things. Quick opening of the circle. Go get your balls, baby. If you don't have balls, we can fix that later. I love that, Eileen. She found a heart on one of her spheres. So I'm going to call in the guides and guardians of the 4 sacred directions to be with us. Guardians of the East, to help us create spaciousness in our minds. Guardians of the South, to create space for transformation. Guardians of the West, for emotional healing and renewal. And to the Guardians of the North, for grounding, stability, patience, peace. That's all it takes. Well, Deborah, I think there's something to it. You know what I mean? But again, it could be a little tiny sphere, like the little Moldavite ones that we have right now. Where would those go? Like, this is all you need. That's its own toroidal field. So what I'm going to recommend that you do, if you have the one from class, I know it sounds weird, but sit on it. Don't have too much fun. We're in class right now. But put it somewhere cozy. That is going to activate your lower chakras. So put it there. Anytime you feel, now be conscious, right? So what's your highlight and what's your shadow? So I'm going to, I need more purification. I'm not in a grief state. So I'm going to put the shungite as my highlight and the bronzite facing away. And just sit on it. It doesn't matter what hole you're sitting on. Somewhere comfy. This is an external process. This is not an internal process today. Maybe that's Crystal Masters 2022. Okay. Now, that's all you have to do. You don't have to hold one in your hands. You can if you want. So someone's working on Moldavite spheres for me, but it's going to be a while. Probably holiday time. I know. Me too, Tosh. I can't wait for our retreat. I'm so super bummed that we didn't have a retreat this year, but I promise you we will have one next year, and it's going to be so much fun. So, yeah, I look forward to that. Okay, that's right. Gotta pee in your pillow. I love it. Okay, so you're sitting on yours. Now, what I want you to imagine, I want you to visualize, and you gotta close your eyes for this, but I'm gonna keep talking to you. I want you to come into an awareness. We're gonna go about 15 minutes over time. I hope that's okay, but I told you we had a lot to cover tonight. I want you to come into awareness now of your central channel, which extends from the crown chakra to the root. So you're probably, where you're sitting on your sphere is your root. And your crown chakra is the top of your head. So I want you to come into an awareness of that energy line that extends from the base of your spine up through your vertical column to the top of your head. So that's the main line of energy that forms the torus. And I want you to notice as that energy comes up and out of your crown that it splits in two and comes down both sides of your body, masculine and feminine, right? So the right side of your body is the masculine and the left side of your body is the feminine. So I want you to notice that it separates now into divine masculine and divine feminine and comes back up through that root chakra and then again through the central column. And as many times as you need to visualize that, again, it separates when it comes out of the crown. I've seen this in plant ceremonies, so if you want to know how I believe it, in ayahuasca, she'll show you this. She's shown me this every time. This is exactly how the energy moves. So it comes through that root, up the central column, out through the top of your head, divides masculine and feminine, and then again comes down through underneath you, through the root chakra and back. You feel it? That's right. And now I want you to get a sense, remember your toroidal field really is 8 feet. I want you to sense yours. Mine's pretty tight right now. And again, I'm being transparent with you because I'm going through a pandemic just like you are. Mine feels pretty small. I mean, my toroidal field right now, as I'm sensing it around me, is like maybe here. It's pretty tight. Do you feel yours? Do you sense yours around you? Like in theory, mine should hit all walls in the room. Do you see it? You're at about 3 feet, Tammy. Mine is real tight. Sharon says hers feels small. It is usually a white light, although it can be different colors. Some people see a whole rainbow with the torus. So Sheila, if you're having trouble sensing it, just close your eyes and see if you can feel the energy. When you sense that fountain and it dips out and it extends down, do you sense it close to your body, or do you feel like it's far enough away where you can hardly see it? I feel like I can see it real close to my body. And Carla says like a corset. I think this is what's happening to our planet right now. I think we've all called our toroidal fields in really tight, okay? And what's happening, and this is something that we as light workers have to be mindful of on the planet right now. If you choose, like I'm going to extend my toroidal field tonight. If you choose to extend your field, the consequence of that is that you're going to be more intimately connected with other people's toroidal fields. That's the consequence of tonight. So if you've been like, I don't want people talking to me, I don't want people touching me, I don't want this, I stay away, you know what I mean? That's what happens when we get that toroidal field real up close. When you start to expand it, which I would say as healers is part of our divine mission, but when you start to expand it, you're now going to be more connected to the toroidal fields of others. Now you can set an intention. You don't have to hug anybody. This is energetic, right? But you can set the intention to do that in a safe way so that you allow your field to expand, but only to connect with other tubes, other toroids that are aligned with your energy field. This is, by the way, when I used to work with clients individually, I don't anymore, but when I used to, and they would say, I really want to attract a partner. I would go into their field and their toroid was like this. And meanwhile, they're like, I want to get married. And I'm like, your energy field looks like you want to be alone forever. Does this look like I want to get married? So I'm always like, well, then we have to expand your Taurus, right? Because otherwise nobody's Taurus can even connect with you, right? It's really, really true. Sorry, I'm adjusting my Taurus. I'm adjusting my sphere. So, right? So if you can't, Leah, just trust, because it's there. And the more you practice, Leah, because it really is a practice, the more you'll start to sense it. If you're clairvoyant, you'll see it. If you're clairaudient, you might hear your toroidal field expanding. If you're clairsentient, you'll just feel it. If you're claircognizant, you'll just know it's happening. Does that make sense? Because everybody has different spirit gifts, right? So if you feel really tight, let's take this just one step at a time. So I want you to imagine, like, see the vertical line of light extend above your head, and now imagine extending it by just like 6 inches. Just imagine pushing it out just a little bit further away from you. Do you feel the energy? Try doing this with your hands. My hands are super warm right now as I do this. Like, try, can you feel it? Try pushing the energy out with your hands. It feels really good. Do you feel it? Yeah, that's why you're hearing it. That's why you're sensing it, right? And let the energy move through. It's okay. Okay, that's as far as I could go on that round. And then let's let the energy go down into the center of the earth, rise back up through. And then the next time, let's reach your arms up. Keep moving back. So I just feel like you being able to see me is probably a good thing. So again, let's reach our arms up and out. And let's see if we can push it just again, remember 8 feet is the optimal zone. So let's try to push it out. I'm going to push it out like 2 feet now. If you're having pain, this is going to help your pain, because this doesn't feel good. This is where you need to be. So let's push that toroidal field out, especially if you're having shoulder, back, sciatic. Let's push the toroidal field out, and let's see if we can get a full, like, 2 to 3 feet out now. And feel that flow all the way around you. You feel it? And then down. And then if you want to do it one more time, again, you can imagine extending that flow of energy out another foot if you want, and really visualize. It's interesting, isn't it? And if you're working with a client, you can do this with them and for them. So you can literally imagine pulling their toroid up. You can do it virtually with people too, and then extending the toroid out as far as you can go. And that's about as far as is comfortable for me. But it's like 2 feet wider than it was earlier today, right? And then back up through, and start to see how it's much easier it is now to push out. There isn't as much resistance. Like when I first did this, there was, if I went beyond like right here, there was resistance. Now it's like, now I can really expand it out and push it out, right? Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah, if you're feeling any, do you feel a difference? Like if you had, like my shoulder was bothering me and it's not now. Like I honestly, earlier today, I could not move my arm that far back because I have a rotator cuff situation. I can move my arm now much farther than I could do it even this morning. Energy work is real. I mean, this will transform your life. And yes, you can do it every day. And you can also send pain through the toroidal loop. So if you've got a headache, you can imagine extracting that energy from your head, releasing it up through that spiral, sending it out and then down into the earth to transmute that energy. And then as it comes back up through the channel, releasing that energy so it is not part of your field. Interesting, right? And the more you do it, the more you'll start to notice that you have less restriction. And what I love about this too is if you have clients, like I have some clients who are in a wheelchair, for example, and they always feel like energy work isn't available to them. And it's like, no, it's 3,000% available to you. And you don't even have to have your full arm span to be able to do this. I mean, it literally is just a visualization of like opening that channel. But this is someone you can do even if they don't have mobility, even if someone's in a hospital bed, they can still work with their toroidal field. The only time your toroidal field is not active is when you're not alive. Otherwise, it's active and moving at all times. But it can be really... And I've noticed with people who have, like I have a really dear friend who's in the middle of an RA flare. And I'm doing this toroidal work with her on the phone to try and get like better mobility because she's just having the worst flare ever. And it's just ever so slight, but every time we go in and start to just move the energy, it's like some of the pain dissipates, some of the mobility returns, right? It's just a very slight. You can work with any, you can release from the heart, you can release from the solar plexus. I've done this with, because I have some childhood trauma around bullying when I was young that I've worked through most of it actually. It's been like the first half of 2020 has been working on that. And like, so you can pull stuff out of your solar plexus, which is where like bullying and like people being mean when you're young and all of that sits here. So you can pull that out, and again, through the torus, and then it extends that energy out, and it gets transformed once it comes back into the Earth Zone matrix, and then comes back into you as usable light. Isn't it interesting? And you'll start to feel kind of like, you can feel tingly a little bit, you can get warm a little bit. Lex feels taller, right? I feel like I've got better wingspan and mobility. I mean, I literally couldn't move my right arm this much this morning. That is 100% difference from where I was 10 hours ago. 100% difference, right? So you can feel it shift. So Virvania, it's happening in her upper arms and shoulders. Interesting. So here's the flip. Are you ready? So if you feel good with this, the flip is not that much different than this. The flip, just what it does is it takes you, if your anchor has been too narrow, and especially if you've been too, what's the way to describe this? If you've been too plugged into the energy of this planet and current events and people and all of that, when you flip your torus, what happens is you, instead of connecting to the mundane, your primary connection becomes to the spiritual. And you go from plugging in, remember I talked to you about the socket that wasn't working? You go from plugging into a socket that's broken, so there's no power, to a socket with all of the power. So that the rotation of the energy field of the torus is simply a rotation of the scope of what you're plugged into. Whether it goes from finite to infinite. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you how to do it. If you want to do it with me, you can. If you want to wait and see how you feel and hear from other people and their experiences too, you can wait for that too. So again, let's come into a real good visual. I'm going to replace my sphere. I'm doing Shungite facing in. And I want you to come back to the visualization of the field. So again, it's coming up under your hips, through your spinal column, over the top of your head, right? And then extending out to the sides of you and back under you and through and up. So I want you to notice that, become aware of that tube, that spiral. And right now, the bottom of the spiral is anchored into this planet, and the top of the spiral is anchored into the upper realms, the astral realms, right? So what I want you to visualize is gently taking that torus and rotating it on its axis. And take a deep breath there. what that does is switch the polarity. So what you're now grounding into is the energy of the entire multiverse. And what your soul star chakra is connecting to is basically the reverse, right? The planetary energy. So you're flipping your Taurus so that you feel a reverse polarity. And so what happens is, when you start to think about a problem that you're facing, it's like, well, I can only do this. That's the only solution. And when you reverse, do you feel some resistance? So maybe just play with it for a second. When you reverse, it's like, I have every possible solution. There are no obstacles. There are no limitations. Do you feel it? Everything is available. It's a very profound energetic shift, and yet the physical experience of it is very subtle, right? When you're ready to flip it back, and you can play with this a little bit. Now, I have flipped it and stayed there for about a month now. I haven't flipped back. I'm going to flip back with you guys. But then when we're done tonight, I'm going to flip one more time. Because I have really enjoyed being anchoring my root into the expanse. Because in that expanse, so why do I want to stay there? Because I have felt less fear, less anxiety, less contraction, because what I'm plugging into is all that is, instead of like, this is my life, these are my problems, this is my family, this is all I can do, this is all I have, this is all that's possible. Like, that's my very tight Taurus was anchored into a very limited reality. Oh my gosh, and falling asleep like this is fun. Do you feel the difference? But before we flip back, because I'll flip you back in just a second. So spirit guides, if they have flipped, help us all feel what it is like to sit in that expanse. Let me just give you some guiding phrases to think about this, okay? In this space, anything that you seek is possible, right? There are endless solutions to your problems. There are endless ways to change the way you operate in this world, the way you communicate with people in this world. There are endless ways to address physical challenges that you're facing. It's a universe of possibility when you anchor into the alternative. I'm gonna play my bowl for just like 10 seconds, if that's okay. And it's good because this is a sacral bowl for creativity, and there is a creative flow that comes with this. So I want you can close your eyes or you can leave them open. But you went from sitting on one planet to sitting on the multiverse. Now, alternatively, while you're doing this, one thing you can do is you can actually place spheres at the 4 directions. So this one has quartz in it, which is why I did that. All the bonded spheres that I'm making have some kind of quartz in them so that they anchor the energy. Then I'll put my clear quartz in front of me. I'm going to I have rainforest jasper. I'm going to put that to my right. I've got the heart chakra with the sacral stones. I'm going to put that behind me for fire. And then for water, what do I have? Oh, moonstone would be good for water. Moonstone will go here for water. And then what you can do is you can actually take, I mean, this is like different levels and layers of work that you can do. If you have a wand, what you can do is you can draw energy lines. It's good if you can make contact with the floor from one sphere in a clockwise circle. And now you've got a network, right, of spheres that are all radiating energy. Do you feel that? And again, if you want to take it to the next level, then you can take 2 more spheres and hold them in your hands. Some people suspend a sphere from the ceiling so that there's one above their head, which creates almost like a Sri Yantra. So this is basically a battery pack. You know what I mean? You're plugging into a battery and you're creating a bigger battery. So one of the main questions people ask me before we flip and end class tonight, one of the main questions people ask me across the board is, how do I run more energy? I feel like I don't have enough for my kids, for my animals, for my partner, for my business, for my boss, for my neighbors, my aging parents. I don't feel like I have enough energy for everybody. How do I run more energy, right? This is how you do it. If you do this every day, this is going to make a real quantum shift in your life, because that's right, you become the generator of the grid. That's exactly right, Janine. By doing this, you're becoming the generator of the grid. And that energy is flowing directly up through you, cycling out around you and beneath you. Okay, now, so we rotated the torus. To rotate it back, again, it's just a visualization. Oh yeah, I mean, your bracelets reinforce this, your circular stones reinforce this, right? I mean, everything reinforces this. You're going to start looking at your life differently because we've learned about spherical reality tonight. And spheres are important. I mean, there's a reason, right? And it's because it is the most perfect shape, and it is the beginning of the point of creation, taking us back to the beginning of class tonight. The universe was created with a single point, and from there, the seed of life, the flower of life, the petal of life first, and then the seed of life, and then the flower of life. Like, that's the fingerprint of creation, and it's in your DNA, it's in plants, it's in flowers. Everything begins with a point. And that point is a sphere. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, if you want to flip your torus back, I'm going to flip mine, for those of you who want to flip back. And then as soon as we're done tonight with class, I'm flipping back, because I've really enjoyed sitting on a big old torus. And if you want to keep working with it, you can sit with it for a little bit longer before you flip it. You don't have to flip it back right now. Yeah, so basically you change the polarity when you flip the torus. Interesting, right? Are you sweating? It's kind of sexy. Get hot, get sweaty. Okay. So we flipped our torus. So what was north became south. What was south became north. So if you're ready, again, it's a clockwise turn. You don't have to flip with me, but I'm going to flip so that I can help those of you who want to flip back. So again, we're just imagining the whole field now shifting again. It can make you lightheaded. Energy work is real. You can stay right where you are. It won't hurt you. Honestly, if anything, it makes you a little fuzzy. It makes you a little soft. But honestly, the world needs this. So if you're open to leaving it. No, we flipped it clockwise, and we're flipping it clockwise again. I always flip my torus clockwise. I don't do counterclockwise activity with an energy field. I always flip clockwise. So we're flipping it clockwise one more time. So what was north is south. What was south is north. So we are now anchored back. The southern pole of our tube now is connected, anchored back down into the center of the earth, and the northern termination of our tube is now anchored back in the astral realms. And I'll tell you something, when I do this, I immediately feel like small again. I'm always like, it feels very human, which is fine. Did you feel it when we flipped back? It was like, ooh. So Sheila, you may not be clairsentient, right? So I'm clairsentient and clairaudient, a little bit clairvoyant too, but mostly audient and sentient. So I hear and I feel. Some people actually see this shift. Some people just know it in their mind, like, yep, I flipped. Okay, here I flipped again. Cognizance is not sentience. So you have different gifts, different psychic gifts. Some people see, some people feel, some people know, some people smell, some people taste, some people, everybody's different. So don't judge your reaction. But mine is, I feel it and I can almost hear it. Like it's like a turning of like a crank almost. So you have to decide where you're comfortable. And what I love about this for you guys for tonight in general, I'm going to leave you there for tonight, but like I said, I'm going to flip us right after we're done. I'm going to flip me right after we're done. This is a tool in your toolkit. My goal with Crystal Masters is this, and I know that my way of teaching crystal healing is not the same as other people's way of teaching crystal healing. And I'm okay with that because every person who teaches is different and everybody who works with crystals is different. When you're done with Crystal Masters this year, I want you to know the metaphysical properties of your stones. I want you to understand the different sacred geometric shapes and how they operate, not just what they are, but how they move energy in different ways, which is why we're doing the Platonic solids next month. And I want you to have 12 or 15 or 20 different techniques that you can work with. When a client comes to you and says, I'm depressed, is this it? Like, this can't be it. I am so depressed. And I want you to have this technique to share with them that we can flip the script in a real way that will help them plug into a broader energy source. And it doesn't matter what size crystal they're working with, the effect is the same, right? Oh, I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this. Okay. So if you're happy being where you were and you flipped back, stay there. If you're feeling very ungrounded when we're done tonight, have a good meal. You know what I mean? Have something nourishing, good for your body. Drink some water and some tea to move the energy through. While we're still in the circle, I'm going to flip back. So if anybody flipped and wants to go back with me, I'm going to do it one more time. If you're happy where you are, just stay where you are. Okay? Just feels. And now if you want to do something fun, if you set up the perimeter of your spheres, it's kind of fun to go around the circle one more time because you should get the same response at every direction. Yep. That's the power of the sphere. Okay, now I'm going to release this circle that I opened. So making constant contact with the floor. It's always hard to unwind a circle, especially when I just want to stay here. That was the fastest 2.5 hours of my life. Thank you for letting me go overtime tonight, you guys. Interesting. I like it. I like it. I like it. Fun to watch, right? I'm glad. I'm glad you had a good time. So I want to thank the guides and the guardians of the North for keeping us safe, grounded, protected during this time tonight. And we thank you and release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the West, thank you for helping us to move blocked emotions and stored energy in service of our healing. To the guides and the guardians of the South, we thank you for courage, transformation, strength, power. And to the guides and the guardians of the East, we thank you for helping to shift our mindset and our perspective this evening to better understand ourselves, each other, our relationship to our crystals. And together we say, Amen, Aham, so it is. I feel ready to grab my hot ball and it is kind of warm. I was so excited about class tonight. I hope you had a lot of fun. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you got to also not just learn, but see. It's one of the reasons I love working with pendulums is it's real. I mean, you can see it right in front of your eyes. It's not a theory, right? Did I get your sacral all warm? Sarah Sarai can breathe. That's fantastic. And so, thank you for being here tonight. I'm really, really, really glad that you were here. Yes, the toroidal field expands above and below your floor, above the ceiling, so you're not confined to your physical human spaces, for sure. I'm so glad. I'm glad. I wanted to blow your mind a little bit tonight, and it's fun for me as a teacher because I have all these experiences and these insights, and Crystal Masters has been this really powerful opportunity for me this year to put these into modules or lessons and to give you really practical exercises too, because I think that's very important as well, is making sure you know, again, what is this? Who cares to a certain extent? How does it work? That's what really matters. And why would you choose this over this? Well, this extends at least 8 feet out. This encompasses the entire toroidal field. This, we get about 12 inches. It creates a beautiful fountain of energy, these generators, but it doesn't do this. And it doesn't matter what size it is, right? So that was the real important, at least for me, the meat on the bone of tonight's class was really making sure you understand all of your sacred shapes are important, but some of them are more powerful than others. So next month, when we work in Crystal Masters with the Platonic solids, there is a sphere in here. So what I'm going to have you do next month, and when you get your set, these are shipping out I think tomorrow or Friday, when you get your set, you need to spread them out. Give them some distance, and I want you to start working with your pendulum. And I want you to start noticing the field over the Merkaba, over the icosahedron, over the dodecahedron, over the sphere, over the cube, over the pyramid, over the octahedron, and begin to discern the difference in the fields, right? Yeah. Which shape is better for a center of a grid then? A generator. Do you know why? A generator creates a tighter flow of energy. Unless your grid is 8 feet, I would always use a generator because this has a more dispersed energy field, this has a tighter energy field. So for a 12-inch or less grid, this is going to raise a higher, tighter vibration. For a 12-inch to 8-foot grid, which people do, this is going to create a more dispersed energy field. Does that make sense? It's a great question. I really appreciate the question. Woo. So you will get your tools, if you sign up today, I think you get your tools for, Alexis can help you with that. I'm not good at that stuff. Yeah, so the flow of energy reverses when you flip your torus. Your personal flow doesn't change, but what you anchor into changes. So your root connects to source and your source connects to root. So what you're anchoring into is a much bigger field of energy than what you are connected to at your crown chakra. So it sort of reverses that energy. That polarity is what changes. That's exactly right. Why would you want to flip it back? Some people feel safer with a shorter, smaller energy field flow. They like what they're used to, and that's okay. Or they're, they don't know what that would feel like, so they don't want to change it or flip it. What should you get for your first sphere? I don't know. The ones that we have, we do have the, I think we have them. Alexis can tell me if we do. Oh, no, we don't, I guess. I guess we only had like a few and they're gone of those, the bonded sacral chakra ones. The rarest sphere that I have for you at Sage Goddess is Sujilite. That is a master healer. And it's small, but it's mighty. I would love to see you get a clear quartz sphere, even if it's just a really, really small one, because that's just a good utility tool to have in your toolkit. Lori's first one was carnelian, which is great, because remember, carnelian usually has quartz in it, because carnelian is a member of the agate family, and agate grows with chalcedony and quartz. So I think what I would say is use your intuition. It's not going to lead you astray, When you flip it, it's just about what you're anchoring into. So instead of having the expanse of the astral realms above you, you're basically allowing your root to connect to the astral. That's what happens. And because your root is so used to being anchored in what's practical and pragmatic and earth-based and material and physical and financial and all of that, it gives your root a chance to connect to something much more ethereal and expansive. And for me, it alleviates a lot of worry and anxiety and stress. So no, I flip clockwise and I flip back clockwise, me personally. But you can experiment. If you find that, no, I want to flip back counterclockwise, trust your intuition. Do you open a circle to flip back? I would. But, you know, just a quick one like I did. It's just really quickly welcoming in the guides and guardians, releasing the guides and the guardians. It doesn't have to take you like half an hour to do it. It can be very, very easy. Yeah. Well, but remember, airy-headedness isn't an air sign thing. It's a spirit thing. There are a lot of very grounded air signs who need to get back in touch with the divine flow of source energy. So you don't flip your chakras. No, you personally are not changing. What's changing is the levels above and below you. So instead of anchoring into the earth and connecting through to the astral through your crown, you're anchoring into the astral and connecting to the earth through your crown. And so it's a reversal in that way. Does that make sense? That's exactly right. It's the reversal of what you're plugging into. And all it does is give you a different perspective because you're used to earthing into the earth. And sometimes for some of us, it's fun to earth into the astral because, again, the earth is fixed, finite, grounded, boundaried, territorial, you know, and the infinite is infinite. So what's fun to do with this, I have a friend, by the way, who every time she flips, she has an orgasm. I'm not telling you have to do that, but that's how she flips. She has an orgasm and she visualizes the toroidal flow shifting, and then she has another orgasm and she envisions it flipping back, which is great. It's not what I do, but if you want to do that, I will not hold you back. It's a shift in consciousness. It's a shift in perspective. If you need that. And some people really need it because some people just don't know how to envision something new or feel optimistic or not feel so incredibly heavy all the time. So there are people who use this for changing their eating patterns because some people find when they flip their Taurus, they don't get as hungry. I still get as hungry, but some people don't. So some people do it to change their eating patterns, right? Yeah, I don't know what happens to your Taurus with that orgasm. You'll have to tell me all about it. I haven't done that part before. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm trying to make sure I've answered all your questions. No, I journeyed this week. I mean, not with medicine, but just with my breath. I did a breathwork journey this week with a flipped Taurus, and it was real good. I have been happier, lighter, slept better in the last month than in the 6 months before that, which is why I'm bringing this to you. I really, really, I believe it. And so what I want to tell you is, as with everything, because you guys are creative, take what I've given you, experiment with it, find a new modality, and then teach me. I mean, seriously, years later, I'll have students come to me and go, remember that technique that you taught? I took it and I did X, Y, and Z, and now my clients do A, B, and C with it. And I'm always like, that's awesome. Because my goal is to inspire you. But obviously, you guys are smart practitioners, and you will find all kinds of really fun ways to incorporate this into your practice. But yeah, I haven't been as tired. I haven't been as I'm going through menopause. I haven't been as kind of bitchy, you get kind of bitchy. So your homework is to see what else you can do with this tonight. So why flip it back? Only if you don't like it. Some people feel not grounded enough and they want to be grounded. So it's like, okay, then get grounded. But at least you know you have the option. You can go back, right? If you're feeling really depressed, I'll tell you something. If you get really bad news, or you watch the news for too long, or something happens, there's an argument or whatever, flip your Taurus for like 5 minutes. Go in a room, flip your Taurus, flip it back, and see if it doesn't shift the paradigm for you. You don't have to sit there for a day, right? It locks into place. So I recommend only flipping once per session so that you don't go, wait, did I flip it? Did I flip it again? Or do I need to flip it again? That's a good question. Only flip it once. And then if you and then keep track, you know what I mean? If you're like, okay, I didn't flip it back, so if I want to go back, I have to go back and flip it back, right? This would be something good to put in your journal too, maybe. It hasn't caused anything for me. I mean, unless you guys notice a difference. The only difference I notice is that I'm happier. I feel more optimistic because I feel like I'm plugged into like a bigger light bulb, you know what I mean? And it's allowed me to, like, things that would have bothered me this month kind of just passed by, and I just wasn't kind of as affected by it, but I feel like I'm plugged into something much bigger. Can it flip on its own? That hasn't happened to me. Is that good? Well, thanks you guys, and thank you Alexis for staying too. If your ears are ringing, that's energy. If your hands are tingling, that's energy. It's all energy flowing. It was a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. So, in case you joined after I told you everything, a couple things I do want to remind you because these are important. Crystal Masters Bebops are on sagegoddess.com if you want one. Everybody in here asked me for them. So if you want one, they're $1.20 and your code is Shadow19. If you want Athena's pendulum, my sterling silver pendulum, last call, these are being retired. And then if you want the singing bowl, last call, you have until midnight. And if you don't want it, that's okay. But if you do want it, the bowl, the mallet, and the case are available for you for pre-order, and they'll be here in 60 days. And that's all I got. You're very welcome. All right, you guys have a great rest of your evening. May your Taurus flipping exercises be very productive for you. Seems like a good blessing for tonight. Was it a flipping amazing class? I love you, Vanya. Thanks so much, you guys. I enjoyed being with you. And keep me posted. I mean, I'm going to be looking in the group. Let's do some debrief there. How did it feel for you? How do you feel now? Did you decide to stay there? Did you decide to flip back? When you flipped back, how did you feel? Like, this is, these are good conversations because the more you learn, then when you take this to your own clients or your own friends or your own family and people who are coming to you for healing, you'll have a repertoire of experiences and knowledge to share that I think is really powerful. So, thank you for being here tonight. It was my pleasure to be with you too. And I'll see you soon. We have new moon tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Don't miss it.